Crash Course Live is presented by
Smash It Demolition Derbies, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Stirring Dirt Racing, host of Maymania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah. Online at stirringdirtracing.com.
Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now your host, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast. A couple of those highlights came up in conversation last week, Brian. It's good to be back at Finger Lakes 1. The shot of Eric Remington going nose to nose in that Diplomat against the other Team Nasty Dog drivers in Dunkirk. In that shot, by the time they were done, the carburetor linkage, the throttle linkage was pushed back past the seat bar.
Yeah, they don't mess
and he actually sold the trunk lid to a repair guy because it was never used. But then one of the students was asking what I would ever use a GoPro for at a demolition derby, and I said, "Son, come over here. Let me show you how Sean Gokenauer uses a GoPro at a demolition derby." And his reaction was a lot of wide-eyed stuff. So it was cool. We do have a finite amount of time with the Zoom meeting. We are connected up with Mark Elliott to take a look at what the season was like, what worked, and what is going to be improved upon for 2023. So Mark, man, I appreciate you making some time for us and hanging out. I know you've been busy making the rounds on the chat circuits and stuff, and it appears that you, before we go any further, blink twice if you're being kept in this dungeon against your will.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Brian.
What's going on, bud?
Nothing, man. Come out here to my truck in the dungeon. Get away from the distractive dogs.
Oh, we thought maybe all this derbying has drove your wife right insane, and she just locked you in a dungeon to, that I have to deal with it quite so much.
Nah, man, she's out working.
Oh.
Well, you haven't exactly been taking it easy either. What is on the horizon? I heard there's all sorts of big things coming, and the season at this point now for 2022, it is in the books. I had a chance to dole out all that money to the prize winners and recognize the champions and the special award winners. So there's been a lot going on in the Unified Point Series universe, even though the derbies have concluded.
Yes. I have a whiteboard hanging on the back of my closet door, and it's got about 5 or 6 lanes on it, and one lane is the Unified Point Series, and it's broke up into 2022 and 2023. I would love to say that after that last show that things are a wrap, but it's the furthest thing from that. I think one thing that I can do to improve is maybe take some vacation time after that last show, but not for a break, just to really be able to focus and dial in on what it takes to seal it up. But definitely checking some boxes. Lexi Droz has all the information that she needs for Demolition Derby Life magazine. So stay tuned for that if you're a subscriber. If not, now's the time, especially if you had any involvement this year, had any interest in the Point Series, because she's going to have a full spread on the December issue. George Hino, we were texting last night. I believe he's going to ship the Happy Gilmore checks. Probably, maybe even if he didn't do it today, maybe tomorrow. So, guys, be on the lookout. JD got his in PA, and Cam Penwell and Scotty Drevnick Jr. got theirs in Wabash, Indiana. But went down and visited our great friends John and Jordan Rutherford at Ruts Fab this week, and picked up those just amazing trophies that I've always said that Mark Klein just absolutely wowed me with our logo, because I'm a simple guy and I don't like real flashy. So the simplicity of it, I've just always been in love with it, honestly. And Jordan Rutherford brought that to life with those trophies, and I love that he never changes them, because I love them every year. So we got those. JD got his, but everybody else has got trophies coming. Jeffy's Fab Farm shipped his out to the highest youth, highest female, Mad Dog, Justin Yeager, McKenna Saylor, and Cam Pinwell doubling up, 11 years old this year, doubling up with the highest youth and top 10 finish, 7th place. So Cam and Tony and Billy, just seeing that family flourish this year, and the stories that they helped write have been phenomenal. And the rings, I have given Scotty Drevnick his 3rd place ring, and JD Lorene got his championship ring at our award ceremony in Dunbar at Dead Man's Buried Alive. And I still have Steven Sickles that's actually sitting on the golf cart. I'm like, man, I can't lose that thing. So Steven's already got a 1st place one, but he's got a big 2nd place nugget coming his way. And you mentioned the checks, the driver's favorite parts. We did pay JD as well as Cam and Scotty, but the rest of the checks are written, and they will be out in the mail this week, along with thank you cards right behind him. And I know if I keep talking, I'll just keep naming more, so we'll just call it that. And if we forget somebody, I'm sorry.
Well, start off right there with Steven Sickles. I saw that he was posting. He's signed up as one of the registered drivers, so he's going to get that bonus point program, the extra 2 points in the event that he does score. So he's going to be pocketing that, and also his intentions are at this point to go win the thing again.
Yeah, I mean, perception is reality, but that's kind of what I took from that post. And I'm like, okay, because we've never had a reoccurring champion. It's Derby drivers are funny. We're all different. We all kind of show up in our own way. And some people have made it real clear, don't you dare put my name on there. And then our past champion Sickles, who really just kind of flirted around with it last year and then ended up pulling down 2nd place and $10,000, comes back and is one of our first 14 drivers to register and says, I can't see doing anything if I'm not trying to win, is basically what I read in that post.
Right. And he's going to have his hands full, but like you said, there's not yet been a repeat champion. And in that, there hasn't been anybody that really flirted with that repeat either. When Steven jumped in and was going full bore, he was able to run down a little bit, but once JD got out in front, he was able to stay there. Yeah. And the past years have essentially been runaways. When John won it the first year, he did it going away, and Steven, he had the record for the most points accumulated, and covered tons of miles when he took the championship 2 years ago. And now this year, I believe it was a record, right? It was a record for most points scored when JD won.
Yeah, JD broke the highest. He breached 200, and the most wins. I think he wrapped off 15 wins. I'm peeking in my garage around the corner right now, and 15 wins is a lot. And, I know I'm getting old when I say things like, well, the wins then were different than the wins now. Everything's different. And a win's a win. You still got to beat the rest of the people. You still got to have the infamous Derby luck, the Derby gods on your side. And, he did it. And what a season that JD had. And, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you one thing, and then I'll tell you this. Okay. I'm getting tired of coloring inside the lines, and I'm getting more comfortable with just saying what it is, and never meaning any bad towards anybody, but just saying what it is. And you'll never catch me trying to stir the pot for ratings or anything like that. But I'm getting more comfortable just saying, and now what it is we've yet to see somebody stop somebody. We've yet to see somebody, and the opportunity was there last year. And I would say this, if Steven was sitting right here in my truck with me, he kind of leaned in at some point last season and said, you know what, I'm gonna try to do this. And he started delivering. He started winning just like he was the previous season. Him and JD were going win for win. It was neck and neck. It almost felt a little bit like the Santel Shipley run that we seen. Mm-hmm. Except the difference in that, Santel was in his own realm and Shipley was in his own realm. So, there's a bunch of bullcrap accusations that they were trying to pay each other's competition off and all this crap, which I would never believe that was true, because I know both drivers and I don't believe that they would ever do that. Sure. But last year we saw Steven and JD on the same grounds, on the same track, in the same class. And, at some point, I do believe when JD was on a hot streak like he was, Steven's only chance, if you can't just beat him by winning, would be to beat him by stopping him. And he never did that. And so that's one thing that we've yet to see.
I was just going to say that, Steven got after it pretty good towards the end of the season, but JD had put together such a string of impressive runs. It would be great for Derbian if those two just came out and battled, if they had a season-long battle where, they ran against each other 10, 12, 15, 20 times, because, what's better than to see two of the best go at it? There's not anything better, in my humble opinion. I really think that would be something fun to watch.
I hear what you're saying, but is it going to be good for Derby to have those two going out there and taking one another out and trading shots in the way that was just described here, in terms of the greater good of the community?
Yes.
I disagree. I think that would become so toxic so fast.
Yes.
No, because when those two are out there battling, because to be the best, you got to beat the best.
I heard that.
So when those two are out there battling, that means somebody else is out there sticking and moving and staying out of trouble and doing what they need to collect points and doing what they need to become the next champion. And it's we see it, we see it all the time. Not all the time, but we've seen it in different forms of racing where, guys get, it's the Matt Shepard and Stu Friesen show.
Sure.
And those two guys are always running, and obviously they don't beat and bag and take each other out, but everybody's worried about them, what we got to do to beat them. All of a sudden, the same guys finish third for, 10 weeks in a row or 10 shows in a row, and then the other two have trouble, and boom, we got a new guy second, or we got a new guy first.
And again, I'm going to. I hear what you're saying, and the parallel comparison makes sense, but it's not a true parallel comparison, because dirt modified racing is not an elimination motorsport.
True.
You have to have a conscious ill intent to disable the opponent so that you're the last one winning. And when you go out onto the track, there's an opportunity cost that comes with that. So are you willing to invest enough in a case, if we're going to put, let's put this year in a vacuum and just look at it this year. There was opportunities where those two were having that Matt Shepard, Stu Friesen style battle where they were going win for win and they were scoring points. They were offsetting one another's points, and the lead wasn't growing, it wasn't shrinking. It was a couple points here and there, but it wasn't changing any. It was sort of just sustaining. So at that point in the midst of it, the opportunity cost is, do I want to forfeit the risk of my ability to score points in order to keep the other guy from scoring points? And what is that going to cost long term? Is it going to let somebody else come up and catch me for a second? Is it going to mean that I'm going to have to run my behind all over the country and chase this guy and knock his wheels off every chance that I get in the qualifying heats, and then do it again in either the consi or the feature so that he doesn't score any points? I'm wasting my car. I'm burning my gas. I'm not winning any money. He's not winning any money at the end. Is it easier to go? Is it smarter to go in a different class and try to keep up and keep your eyes on your own paper, win your features, versus that expense on the opportunity cost side of things? Because that is one of those situations where it's going to quickly look, it's demolition derby. It's the way that every county fair has happened within the last 100 years. That is what happens. I just described what happens in the pit area every year. The only problem is it happens in Seneca County, and Yates County, Ontario County, and Broome County. That's what happens. You start weighing your opportunity cost.
But and I understand your point. But
I would rather have my eyes on my paper and control my destiny than spend my money trying to make sure you don't make yours.
Okay, but how about and Mark already mentioned that they show up to the same shows. And it's not necessarily a plan, but it happens.
It does happen.
So and you mentioned that demolition derby it's a knockout sport. So when
killer be killed,
right? So when the best
and everybody has a plan before they get punched in the mouth.
when the best of the best show up, they got to battle. That's just how it works.
It does.
And and I'm not saying that they're one's going to go out to take the other out, or one's going to, but the guys that are there at the end are usually always there at the end. You know what I mean? So there's a high percentage that these two guys are going to bump into each other throughout the season next year, assuming they're both running the chase.
The operative word in the description and the conversation we're having right now with Mark is the word stop. I'm focusing on the word stop. If you're telling me that you are having a driver go out there with the intent of stopping the other one, that means that is a conscious targeting thing. If you say, hey, let's run it down to the end, we'll keep it civil until it's time to split the money, that's a much different conversation than I'm going to make sure this guy doesn't score points.
True. And, I don't – maybe stop isn't the operative word, and but I would say that – the more they run together, or at the same place, the more they're going to have to battle. Obviously, both of them have done, the last 2 years, I don't know who has won more features than those two guys.
They've won a lot.
Sickles, I don't know how many he won altogether the year before, but I know he won a bunch. So, those two guys, it's chances are that when they're both at the same track, it's going to come down to them.
And they're really slippery. They're not guys who are just going to go out and say, "Hey, I'm going to take him out tonight." It's not going to happen. You got to pack a lunch because you got to work all day.
I definitely, like I said, I think it'll be entertaining. I think it'll be, and who's to say that and by April we're not talking about somebody completely different.
Well, that
said, you know what, I'm going out and I'm gonna be the man to beat. Because it's JD. Did JD run for points the second year, or was this his first year running for the points?
He did. He was in the top 10. Actually, he was like our ninth or seventh place driver the prior year, the year that Steven won.
So maybe next year, maybe in April, we're talking about the seventh or ninth. Maybe we're talking about Scotty Drevnik running away with it at this point next year. You know what I mean?
Cam Penwell.
It's.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah. So and that's the thing that I really enjoy about this point series. And Chris and I have talked off air, and we even mentioned it. We had talked about the idea of, if there was a series like we've seen in other forms, and and the fact that
the typical form,
the fact that Marcus went out and put it together is just, it's great. I really enjoy it. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make to many of the shows due to the travel and the time off from work. But I keep up on everything. I watch the videos when I can. But it's I think it's great. I think it's really, and you see people all over copying it. There's points everywhere now, which is great. Not saying that Mark is the one that invented it, but he's really brought it to in my humble opinion, brought it to the forefront. Yeah,
the difference with this is it's not one promoter traveling around with the circus. It's one hub bringing a bunch of different events under. And not even so much a sanctioning body. It's just a way to pay points for different divisions, and it's been successful. Alex Vasco checking in. Al Crockett, Dylan Goodwin, Scott Kiefer, all checking in on the live stream. Appreciate you guys turning in. But we hit on a whole bunch of stuff, Mark. What direction you want to take this here before we get to our first break?
Well, you guys just absolutely, you just made my day just hearing you guys talk back and forth. I was practicing my listening skills, and try not to want to jump in and get my opinion in, but I really just enjoyed hearing both of your very different opinions. And I will say that I believe that you're both right. You're both right.
See, he said I'm right.
Brian, absolutely. I'm not talking about stopping somebody. I'm talking about running over somebody. I'm talking about saying this is mine. This is mine, and it's not yours. Mm-hmm. And what I heard Chris say is, if you're gonna strike that match, you better be able to hold on to it, because it's gonna get hot quick. And you're both so right, because Chris, you're so right. If you're going to draw that line in the sand, you better be watching around your side, around your back, around your corner, because somebody will pass you up if you're spending more time. And maybe they take two cars, and maybe they do it in that. And I'm certainly not trying to stir that up. I'm just saying that we have not seen that, and maybe we never do. And I will say this about the sport: I don't even know if we are mature enough for that to happen without it turning into a crap show, because I don't even know if usually it's not the drivers, it's what I call the cheerleaders. Oh, yeah. Man, woman, child, the families, they can't they can't help themselves. They can't help themselves because they love their driver, and they would do anything for their driver. They would say anything. They would post anything. They would fight anything. They would do anything for that driver, especially the more that they're vested in it. So if we were to see, let's play that out. If Steven says, man, I've won the last 8 shows, and so has he. The only shot I have to beat him, I'm going to take him out. So he goes out there, the green flag drops, he runs flat over top of him, and he does it again at the next show. I can promise you that there's somebody that's not mature enough to watch that.
Oh, yeah.
there's going to so that's why I say I'm not encouraging. Listen, I just want a good story. So if it ever comes down to that, I would just encourage drivers and their teams to go back to when I came into Demolition Derby, when you could go on the track and take a butt kicking and you could shake hands and walk off the track. Mm-hmm. And if you do wrong, you might get punched in the mouth. So don't do wrong.
It's funny, when you just described it the way you did.
That's a motorsports parallel.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, and I think, and we've touched on it, and obviously we all love the sport, but there's obviously times that we get disappointed by things that happen in the sport. But I think that part of the reason people get so invested is because it is a physical contact sport. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when Jimmy and Johnny are out there beating on each other, you know that at some point Jimmy's fans are going to get mad because they hit Johnny this way and they shouldn't have done it. And when all that's built up and all that, there's all that emotion and everything, that's where we get the problems. But it's also a great part of the Derby. I mean, we've been to everybody. The three of us have been to shows where the crowd is louder than the cars, and and that's the great part. I completely agree. I wouldn't want anything negative to happen.
Right.
But just as a Derby fan, I think it would be great to watch those two battle. No different than I think it would be great to watch Toby Hiley and Bobby Whitaker battle. And
sure.
I think it'd be great to watch Don Santel and
Yes.
Jason Brodzinski square off, and But I completely agree, and that's some people look at it one way, but it's as a group, I think things are looking good, and as a fan, I hope that there's some great shows and some great stuff to talk about next year.
I agree with you there. We do have it. I never said that. The thing about Demolition Derby that always stuck out to me too, with kind of along the same line of the passionate cheerleaders and stuff, regardless of the level, mm-hmm. After you go out and you run a couple derbies, this car here is the one. This car is the one that is going to be the winner. I've got more time. I've got more parts. There is no way that this isn't the one that I'm going to win with. Mm-hmm. And then you don't.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, here it comes.
They're cheating.
And that's another one that mirrors pretty well in motorsport in terms of the cheerleaders. So we're gonna jump back into it. Mark's got all sorts of stuff that's all lined up for next year that we're going to dive into. There's some changes to the points. There's a way to pre-register. We've got some more stuff that's chiming in here on the live chat. So we're going to take a quick break, catch up with everything that's happening online. We're going to set the table a little bit with the thought of we're looking ahead to 2023, and we'll be right back after we tell you about some of our great partners.
Smash Demolition Derby wants to say thanks out to all the drivers, the dozens of partners, the fairs and staff, everybody that made 2022 a successful season. Looking ahead, Smash is going to be at the annual SMW Motorsports Expo and the promoter meetings for plans for 2023 as they come together for classes, rules, fairs, and all the updates and everything. You can visit SmashDemolitionDerby.com online. Before we get into the county fair season, however, they do have Capital City Carnage waiting in the wings. Street Stock Weld class is going to be 5 one-and-dones, 5,000 to win, March 3rd and 4th at the Stormont Vale Event Center in Topeka, Kansas. Thursday is going to be heat draws at 7 o'clock. Heat draws start at 7 on Thursday. Friday and Saturday, the pits open at 9:30. Limited Weld is going to be a 10,000 to win show. Weld Compacts, 2,500 to win. Two-man extreme class, front-wheel drive hobo, front-wheel drive minivan hobo, and front-wheel drive youth hobo are all paying 2,500 to win. All the start times are in the Central Time Zone. It's only going to be streamed on DerbyNation.tv. Additional details for Capital City Carnage, March 3rd and 4th, are online at SmashItDerby.com. restructured.com. You can also find out more about the Bash for Cash, that gigantic outdoor show, May 26th, 27th, and 28th at the Ross County Fairgrounds in Chillicothe, Ohio. Big format change is going to be the 3-man Pro Stocks, $30,000 to win. Smash It Full Size paying $10,000 to win. Smash It Minis, $10,000 to win. All the one and dones, $2,500 to win. Friday, 7 o'clock start time. 3-man Pro Stock Team Heats. Pits open at 8 o'clock. Saturday, 3 o'clock start for the Power Wheels. 4 o'clock is the Pro Stock Team Constellations and the Smash It Mini Heat, Street Stock Full Size, Smith Metalworks Youth Full Size, Street Stock Minivan and SUV, Frank the Tank 70s Wire Class, Smash It Full Size, caps the night. Pits open at 8 a.m. Sunday, 1 o'clock start for Championship Day, Smash It Minis Constellation Round, Youth Mini, Street Stock Mini, the Relic Class, the Smash It Mini feature, then the 3-man Pro Stock Team feature. Pits open at 8 o'clock. Again, all the details on Bash for Cash and everything to do with Smash It Demolition Derby is available online at smashitderby.com. And the 2022 season is in the books for the Hardcore Derby Promotions team. That's a wrap on 2022. Thanks so much to the fans, the drivers, the crews, everybody. They have had all sorts of polls and discussion on ongoing dialogue on Frankie Guy's very busy page and also the Hardcore Main Facebook page, looking ahead to the annual Smith Metalworks Derby Expo and spring meetings. Again, they're going to be looking at having a bunch of shows on the Unified Point Series in 2023. Find out more about the rules, the classes, and everything going on with Hardcore Derby Promotions on their Facebook page, or check out hardcorederbypromotions.com. And we are back with episode number 422. Kenneth Dumbold checking in. Says a lot of great things have come to his area in the last several years with the Demolition Derby as a whole. Scott Drevenak says he likes the Zoom call. Somebody was putting their phone number in the live chat asking us to call them. Scott, that's probably not a good decision. Don't put your phone number out there. Tony Penwell watching, and a couple drivers a couple folks in there are asking about joining us here. So looking ahead, Mark, real quick, if we do happen to lose you, we're going to double up a break to buy some time, then we'll get you back on so we can wrap everything up succinctly here. But looking at the year ahead, there's some changes out there. The point structure is staying the same, but there's also a way the drivers can buy in. And this is the first time there's ever been any type of driver commitment level like this, other than just showing up and supporting the shows that are on the tour.
Yeah. Anytime you put yourself out there, there's always that chance that that people don't support. We've already had more support than I really expected. So, I got a rule whenever I work for people. I tell them it doesn't matter if it's 50 or 5,000. We're going to treat the crowd the same. We're going to rock the house. And I kind of said that whenever we made the decision to move forward with registration, to really find out who's in and who's out. Mm-hmm. And I kind of said, I don't care if there's 9 or 90. If there's 9, then we'll have a top 9 instead of a top 10. But we've already surpassed that in our first few days of having it out there. Right now we've got 14 registered drivers, so we actually have enough for a top 10. And interestingly, there's like 5 states. There's some people that I've never even heard of or crossed paths with. There's folks as young as 11 years old, and there's folks past 50. I can't wait to see who else joins. And what I never anticipated that a bunch of people would just sign up, because if there's one thing that we've learned in 3 years, there's a lot of people that never have interest until they get a little taste of that blood.
Right.
And they get a win under their belt, and then there's a follow-up post and they see their name, and then they start messaging and asking, hey, you tell me more about this, or what does it pay, or and then maybe they go and wrap off some more points. But the significant advantage for those registered drivers, those drivers that make that commitment, aside from just getting to say that they're a member of the class of 2023 and there being a dedicated shirt, we'll put something together, it'll have their names on it, something they can remember forever. The significance of them signing up for the show, or any show for that matter, is that it comes with a 2-point bonus for running that show. So if a guy drives 10 hours and, the Derby gods strike, he's not going to drive home with 0 points. He's going to drive home with 2 for being a registered driver. But if he lands it in the top 3, like he plans to, anybody that's going after it obviously plans to score. So if they score, now they're going to get those standard points, as you alluded to, of whatever that point structure is, and has been for the 3 years that we've had it. plus those two. In addition, we saw a gap in whether it's mini cars, whether it's trucks, whether it's full-size cars. We believe that when there's heat and feature, I've been there, done that, and I personally believe that it's a little bit harder. You got to work a little bit harder. There's a little more preparation. You got to build something to last twice, sometimes 3 times it shows, and depending on, maybe sometimes you got to run a consolation, but typically those guys, like if you think about something like Metal Man, they're going to be working on those cars all weekend long. So if it's a heat feature format, they're going to get another 2-point bonus for that if they score. So, if they're a registered driver and then they want a heat feature double point whopper, now they would be up to 24 points, I believe. So there's just some different opportunities, and we're really just trying to fill gaps as we collect more data, just looking at ways that we can improve.
Mark really nailed it there. He mentioned, some guys aren't interested till they collect their first points. That's exactly what happened to us with the racing. We'd run some of the local series, but we go to Hagerstown, win the first series race of the year. We're like, whoa, hey, and then that's how my brother got into running the series. And it's the same thing for these Derby guys. But it just hit that button. I'm like, man, he's right. That's how it happens. You go and have a little success, and you're like, man, maybe I can hit that next one, and then it builds. So you definitely hit the nail on the head with that one, Mark.
If I remember right, the year started with Trevor Jones and Bill Miller both kind of toying with the idea of running the whole thing until somebody else had started breaking away a little bit more. But this year we had conversations with both Trevor and Bill Miller early on about hanging around there, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Both of those guys in very different ways were certainly big conversation pieces last year. Trevor Jones, if I had to pick a top 3 win last year or this year, the 2022 season, I'll never forget Trevor Jones pulling down the team win in Sturgis at the team show. He had a few people on his team. I know Santel was on his team, but Trevor was the last car running. And those guys got in a knockdown drag out right off the rip. And when you're in a team feature like that with that many cars on the track and that much politics, and you're the team that I think it was probably a couple teams come right for him. And I mean, when the dust settled, there was just a couple of them probably running, maybe 2 or 3 of them running, and their cars were wadded up, and then they clicked it into that drive mode, and he ended up getting that huge win there. And then we seen him in some vans, and we seen him in some mini cars, way out of his comfort zone. I've yet to been. No one has convinced me yet that those guys have to run the mini cars. That's the path. JD mixed it up, and he ran a lot of different classes. Their niche was probably those buddy heat cars, the extreme, him and Dennis Hogan. Mm-hmm. I think they were undefeated in those classes, and that was a full-size motor swap class. But a lot of times when JD was out by himself, he was running mini cars. What do I know? Because I've never done it. So I'm not one to sit back and say, well, I would do this or I would do that. I truly believe in my heart of hearts that we have laid out a structure that anybody in any class could win it. And I don't think we've seen anybody take advantage of those bonus points last year. We saw Ty Richards indirectly take advantage of them and jumped out, and for a half the season it looked like was anybody going to catch him. But life catches up with people, and things come up, and the hook never set. I say once the hook sets, I don't care who you are. Once that hook's in your jaw, your soul is sold to the devil. It's on.
You are right.
It's very true on that front. Once you find yourself committed, you're in it for the long haul. But just to double back and clarify a couple of things, in the event that you're not a registered driver, there's going to be checkpoints through the course of the year where drivers who haven't been active will be taken out of the top 10 if they're not a registered driver, or is it still possible for a non-registered driver to win the overall championship this year with that 2-point structure?
No. They're not taken out of the top 10. They're taken out, period. So right now I'm managing and just got done managing close to 600 drivers.
Right.
And I've been okay with that for 3 years. But with having registered drivers, what I believed, this is my opinion, whether I was right or wrong, this is what I believed. I believed if I just said you just had to be registered to receive awards at the end of the year. Speaking from a Derby driver myself, I believed that people would wait till the last minute and they would decide if they wanted to become a registered driver whether they were going to make money or not.
Sure.
And I did not want that, if for no other reason, for the sponsors, because I think it's important to the sponsors to say that their money's going to a group of people that really believes in the same thing that they believe in. And so then my mindset went to, okay, I'm going to do it every month. And I thought that feels not only feels aggressive, but it feels like not every Derby driver watches social media every week. And I feel like some people would miss out on opportunities. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. I looked at the schedule and basically broke it into thirds. It doesn't seem like that when you say May 1st, August 1st, but when you look at our schedule, between May and August is pretty heavy with shows. So I'm going to keep track of points just as I have for 3 years. It doesn't matter if you're registered or not. If you are registered, then you're going to get those extra 2 points throughout the shows until May 1st. If you're not registered, I'm still going to keep track of your points just as I have, 10, 8, 6, and on with the bonus points. On May 1st, if you're not a registered driver, it's delete. Delete name, delete points. And, I've already thought, wow, can you imagine if we had a guy in the lead and he was not a registered driver? You can bet your tail that I would reach out to that guy and be like, I just want to make sure you understand that right now you are our leader, and I'm going to delete your name and I'm going to delete your points if you do not commit to be a registered driver. And if that guy said, I'm in the lead because we're crossing paths and I'm just scoring, I really don't have interest, that would be perfectly fine with me, and we would just delete his name. But no, it's not. You're not getting deleted out of the top 10. You're getting deleted off the list. Now, there's also the scenario that, well, John Shipley never even started chasing points until Metal Mayhem, and I think that was in June.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible that somebody could score Mayish and still become registered at that point and go on to be champion. It just depends on who's scoring points, how and when.
Right.
And then I'm going to do the same thing August 1st. And, so let's say those 14.
Uh-oh. Well, let's roll that break, and we'll get Mark back on the line. I'll get you Mark's number over there for production, and we'll get Mark back. We'll be right back after this.
Jeffy's Fab Farm in Fredericksburg, Virginia specializes in all of your demolition derby needs. We've got you covered from bumper to bumper. Whether you need headers, shifters, harnesses, fueling systems, or complete turnkey setups, Jeffy'sFabFarm.com can help. We've even got a Canadian branch to help our northern customers. With over 16 years in the industry, we've got the knowledge and experience needed to provide the highest quality parts and put you in the winner's circle. Visit our website today or call Jeff at 540-907-3390. Fabby says the best parts come from the farm. Jeffy'sFabFarm.com.
RPM Group is a progressive waste management business serving nearly 4,000 residents and businesses around Owego, New York. RPM Group can take care of all your waste management needs. Boasting a fleet of 2 roll-offs and 6 garbage trucks, RPM is fully insured and ready to serve. Ask about asbestos abatement and surveys, interior and exterior demolition, private parties and foreclosures, curbside trash and recycling, all that and more. Click or call, ask for Corey, tell him you heard about him here at the Crash Course Nationals, rpmgroupny.com, or 607-223-8714. Demolition Derby Life magazine releases 12 copies a year and covers all of the action, coast to coast. for the Demolition Derby World, home of the hottest action motorsports magazine on the market. There's over 30 editions that have been published to date. A full year subscription is $119, and past issues are available. They should be coming out with another release here in the coming weeks. Make sure you jump online and follow along. Find out more about Lexi Droz and everything going on with Demolition Derby Life magazine on demolitionderbylife.com.
Where'd you go?
We did do a derby.
Ow, my head! You want to do a derby?
Hey Derby World, this is All For Him Racing Videos, where Derby never ends. We have people come up and ask, what is All For Him Racing Videos? And the answer is a YouTube channel dedicated to growing the sport of Demolition Derby in a positive and fun way. Our passion is to show the next generation the sport and capture the memories for generations to come. We're just trying to show that you can be a Christian, do crazy and exciting things like Demolition Derby, and just spread the word. We have traveled all over the country filming events, all while meeting many great people, hearing amazing stories, seeing the passion for this sport, and falling in love with the Derby community. We have grown to be the largest Demolition Derby channel on YouTube across the world, with millions of views within our large library of videos. We love what we do and can't wait for what the future has in store. We always want to be a place for positive, exciting, and action-packed Derby videos. Thank you, Derby World, and enjoy the videos.
And we are back. We have got a fresh link out there for Mark. So we got a moment or two before we get him back on the line. But the virtual unified side of things is mirroring some of these. The virtual side of things, the season finale, the virtual banquet is going to be on Friday, where we recognize the top 5 in points. Kyle Holman ended up winning that championship out of Valentine, Nebraska. Did not set a record for points scored. Brandon Dobrat still holds the number 1 spot with that. And Mark Elliott, there he is. He's back with us now. So we're going to be wrapping that stuff up, and there's some things that are coming that are new, but at this point we're not planning on doing any registered drivers or anything like that. But we were managing, 60 to 80 drivers versus 600. So Mark's hands are a little bit more full than that. But with that interlude, that gets us to the end and satisfies all the commitments that we had for the show. So that's good. That means that we can put all of our attention back on Mark Elliott here. We were talking about the situation where drivers were going to be deleted through the course of the year. If we want to go full Matt Hardy with the delete or maybe not. If a driver is deleted May 1st and scores after August, they don't get those points back from the first stretch, correct? Once they're gone, those points are off the tally. But the registration window also doesn't close until the final third of the season, correct? So there's still some ebb and flow for the balance of the year to see some of those battles still take full shape.
Yeah. I truly believe if someone was in the conversation by May 1st and they decided that it wasn't something that they were interested in or they wanted to invest in, there's not a great chance that they would change their mind. And, maybe they win the next 5 shows and then that's something that they got to look back on and say, what if? Because we've all been there at some point in our life when we kind of look back, and it's not a real huge investment. It's $100. The one thing I want to, in closing of that conversation, that I did want to hit on, that I got time to kind of reflect on while you guys were gone for a sec. One of the things I'm most excited about the registration is being able to reinvest in the drivers So I talked about the shirts. There's no plans for who and what it's going to look like, but I will find great enjoyment out of giving each of those drivers something to remember that season by, and using that registration money to do stuff like that. Or sometimes you just want to buy somebody a fuel card, or sometimes you just want to whatever.
Right.
Being able to kind of reinvest in those guys for the driver experience, because I truly believe, and I've said it over and over again, like, I don't care what money we pay them, what I watch them go through is truly remarkable and amazing, and I don't believe any dollar amount could ever touch it. So that's why I get so excited when I talk about the Rutsch trophies and all these things that enhances their experience, that when that money's gone, they've got that hardware or that check or that shirt or anything that you can dream of and imagine that one day they're going to tell their grandkid, or somebody's going to ask them, what's that from? And and they get to kind of share that story and reminisce on that.
Which those talking points, we talk about how cool it is to have that stuff hanging at the top of the garage. So certainly that isn't lost on anybody in Demolition Derby. But just real quick, just to clarify on that eligibility, the window does not close all year, or does it cut off at some point?
I said it didn't close because at the Turkey Derby, if there's still, if they're not registered by the Turkey Derby, I don't have to keep track of their points. Now, someone suggested, because if there's one thing I don't do, I think a lot about stuff, but I always miss something. I always say the fans know it best, because they really sit back and they see things that I don't personally, like whether in announcing, or I always say the fans know best. And someone suggested that I do put a cutoff point in there, like late in the fall or sometime in the fall, that gives me time to start on those shirts. So sure. The beginning of the show, I talked about, once that last show's over, everybody's like, whew, that's finally over. And I'm like, and that's the busiest time for me, because it's trying to tie all those bows, dot all those I's, and cross all those T's. And so if I did put some kind of cutoff where I knew, okay, these are our registered drivers, it probably would make more sense for me logistically to kind of prepare some of those things for the guys, because I want to continue to get better at having that stuff ready for them, and not scrambling around at Christmas time trying to hurry up and get everything done before 2023 starts.
Sure. Which brings us to the new schedule, and it brings us to the Freedom Ticket, which is a pretty wild thing. So the new schedule, is there any criteria, or is it only shows that you're going to be at? Have you opened that up back to the way that it was that first year? Are we going to be still staying around that 25, 30 show threshold? Is it going to get bigger?
So it is. I am the announcer at every show, and I do want to stay true to that. I do want to stay true to keeping it simple, something that drivers can manage and something that I can manage. Mm-hmm. And, as we grow, maybe some of that stuff changes. But for now, 2 years ago, we had 38 shows on the schedule. And last year we had 31, so we dropped it down 20-some%. And it was really still too much. So this year, for two reasons: one, to shrink the schedule; two, to even out the geographic map. Mm-hmm. Each promoter is allowed 2 shows. Now, some people that didn't affect because they've only got 1 show, but you take our good buddy Frankie Guy, and that really affected him because he had 7 shows. Right. And so he may not be able to see it now, and I know he's probably listening, but I think it's actually going to help him, because I think that competition rolling into town intimidates some people, and we're Derby drivers, so we would never admit that. I would, because I don't care, but a lot of people wouldn't admit that.
Sure.
But I don't think it's going to hurt Frankie that we have 2 shows instead of 7 now. We really enjoy our time together, and just using him as an example of somebody that would affect. But so with that 2 show cap for promoters, that brought it down to a 23 show schedule, and the Florida Derby canceled. So right now we've got 22 shows those drivers got to focus on, and it's already brought some new conversations to the table. Some of the people that have signed up, I do believe it's because they think maybe it's more manageable for them now. I don't think a lot of people think that they could ever do it or that they have time, and myself included. But like we talked earlier, until you really get that fire, like Brian kind of reiterated, we never really know what we're capable of until we lean in and just go all in. But sorry, I wanted to make sure I didn't lose you. I thought my truck ran out of gas, which just shut off. So yes, 22 show schedule. Quick shout out to the promoters though, Chris and Brian. With doing that was going to take away from the purse. So there's one thing that I do confidently believe, that those promoters get a little bit more advertising than, let's say, a gas pedal vendor, because we're talking about their shows. I'm doing live videos. They just, by default, they get a lot more. And so we raised their entry for their show by 100%. And again, being vulnerable and doing that, of having that fear of some guys saying, no way, that's crap, or that's not for us. And I'm always prepared for those conversations because I appreciate everybody so much. I never make a decision unless I truly believe it's right in my heart. So in making that decision, if anybody would have said, nah, we're not going to do that, man, that's too steep, then I would have respected that, and we would have shook hands, and I would have thanked them for their service in the past years. But man, every promoter, none of them said no. So 2 show cap, and I think we've got 14 or 15 promoters on the schedule over like 8 or 9 states. And so what that did is it put about 4-ish, 5-ish up northish, 4 or 5-ish east, 4 or 5-ish west, and a couple south, and then right in the center is basically where I'm at. So everybody's about 4 or 5 hours away from me. So if somebody's going to go all the way from the east to the west, they're probably going to do 8 to 10. But if they're coming to me, they're all going to drive about 4 to 5. It's going to be the most balanced schedule that we've ever had. It's going to be the smallest schedule that we've ever had. And I really hope I hope it's great for the drivers. I hope it's great for me.
And it's really going to change how people approach the schedule too, because with a reduced number of opportunities to score points, with the sliding scale on point payouts versus what's out there in the feature, with the bonus points for heats consti feature, with the bonus versus a standalone, and then with the bonus points for the registered drivers, it's really going to be shuffled. And I know Mark's a numbers guy, so I'm confident that he's already looked at who scored what points compared to what the schedule this coming year is going to be, just like all they do with all the NASCAR schedules, the old point series and stuff. So he's already figured out how much this is going to change, because he's got all that spare time between the last show and coming up to the next one. But the other big thing that sort of has everybody's attention and really made the splash is that freedom ticket. I was wondering if you could kind of elaborate a little bit on what that's going to be for 2023.
Yeah, and I'll try to just stay right to the point, Chris, because I know we're getting on time. So I'll just give you the straight and the short, narrow version. Mark Klein reached out to me, and anytime he reaches out to me, I'm listening, because I truly believe that whether it's him or anybody that's been in this business for several years, it doesn't happen by mistake. So Mark Klein has Derby builds. They've hired a whole production crew. They're building cars. I believe they've got 4 or 5 seasons, and they have a full-time builder now in Luke Schaffner. And he says, hey, Mark, I think a way that you could generate some revenue for the drivers, for the purse of the point series, we could hook up and we could do a Derby build season, and we could kind of gear it around the Unified Point Series. You've had success in the past raising money. I've only ever done the waffle stuff and raising money for somebody, so I guess this is raising money for a lot of drivers. But so it's kind of the same thing. But he knows that I've had some success with that. He knows that he's got derby builds, and I hope that us connecting is going to be good for both of us. I hope it's going to be good for him and his ratings, because I know that's something that he's passionate about and trying to kick off. And for me, it's another great story. In that came the creativity of what's an all-inclusive package look like. So you guys know my brain, and that's the way the Unified Point Series started. I start to get way out there, and I don't look at a lot in the middle. I just start to see a finish line, and in taking that idea that Mark threw at me, and then really just building what we're calling the Freedom Ticket. Somebody is going to win that car. They're going to win some points in winning that car, and the car is already signed up at River City Rampage, so the entry fee's already paid, and their hotel's already booked at the Candlewood Suites, and their armbands are waiting at the gate, and they're going to have a food card. They're going to have some fuel paid for them. It's going to be, you win the car, and now you're a part of the Derby build season. And we're still working through the details of what that looks like. I think, I'm a story guy, I think it would be cool to have them part of the season, because I'm going to take some vacation time and take it as an opportunity to go up and work with Luke Schaffner, the Derby Builds builder. And I know you know who Luke is, because you just came from Blizzard Bash, and we're going to build that car, and maybe the winner is involved with that. I don't know what that looks like yet, but the car is going to be done in turnkey, and we're going to bring the car to the Smith Metalworks Expo there in Eaton, Ohio on April 1st. And we're going to do some fun stuff with it there. Just vendors have jumped on for days. It's going to be a $30,000 retail car easy. And that's a really stock build. You can't even change the body mount. So it's really just going to be decked out in beautiful brand new parts. And we're going to build it no different than, if I'm touching something, it's going to be no different than if the way I was going to run it. And I truly believe that Luke's the same way. So it's going to have heart and soul in it. And you're going to show up there. You're already signed up. You're going to run the heat. I'm going to be on your pit crew, and I'm going to do everything that I can to help you succeed for whatever your goals are in that car. And I always hope that it's somebody that wants to try to win, because that's what I like to do. So I would love nothing more than somebody to really want to go out there and get after it, and let's put that car in the feature, and let's put a solid day's work in it and see how far we can get them down, because they're going to win some points just for winning the car. It's not a point show, so it is a Freedom Ticket opportunity to actually score points at a non-point show where no other driver, if you were in a chase and you're neck and neck with somebody and you won that, talk about an advantage. They're either going to be there watching, or they're going to be watching from Derby Nation at home, and they're going to watch you scoring points at a show that they couldn't score points at. That's right next to promoters on our schedule like Bill Miller or Jordan Rutherford in the past have had to sit and watch people score points at their show, and they know they're gaining on them. So it's the sky's the limit for how far we can take it. Man, so many people. I don't even want to start naming vendors, because there's so many. You can follow my page. There'll be a list of them. I'll try to give those guys exposure, but they'll get plenty of exposure through the Derby build season and at the Smith Metalworks Expo. But gosh, I can't wait to see. And once the overhead's covered, every dollar of that is going to go to the Unified Point Series. So, in full transparency, I think right now overhead's looking, between 12 and 15, depending on what kind of deal we work out with Derby Builds, because we're going to be using their shop and building it up there. I'm going to take vacation and go to Illinois for probably a week. Mark's got an Airbnb. Like, the whole dynamic is just crazy. I'm so excited. And I I love me rounding up parts. You talk about flirting with disaster. It's a wonder I haven't started ordering a 2 of everything, because I'm having a blast even talking to these vendors about parts. It just feels like I'm buying parts and I'm getting a total high off of it. But to get up there and actually help build the car, man, I'm going to be lit up. I really hope that the person that wins it is as lit up as I am, and it is going to be, and it's such a great opportunity to just drive more revenue in there for those guys to compensate them for their efforts. Because once we hit that overhead mark, every dollar at that point, my goal is I hope to add $10,000 out of it.
Wow.
It'd be nice.
You might have to make a trip to Whiskey City.
Stranger things have happened.
That's an awesome program, and the fact that it's going to be part of its own Derby build season is really cool too. I like that.
Yeah, it's definitely an awesome deal.
And you said at this point you're looking at probably getting a bonus $10,000 thrown into the series.
That's my goal.
Wow.
In our first 3 days, we sold almost 130 spots. So that's about $13,000. And if we keep the overhead 15 or less, depending on what deal me and Mark work out for their time and labor, because Luke's a full-time employee for him, so he's going to be getting paid. He works for Mark. The whole dynamic's crazy. I'm so excited. But if we could sell 250 spots, that'd be $10,000 right in there. And it's more opportunity to enhance the experience for whatever it is, 14, 40, 400, whatever drivers register. We just want to make a great experience for them.
Awesome. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to the season.
Yeah,
I mean, it never sleeps anyway.
No,
but it's going to be starting here. Before you know it, we'll be talking about the Unified Point Series as a whole, and keeping you updated on the virtual Unified Point Series as that comes together for 2023 as well, and throughout the course of the season, and talking about results and where the next shows are coming up, just like we've done in years past, and certainly looking forward to the way that the story as a whole is going to unfold. The drama, while not done for the intention of generating ratings, is certainly going to be there.
Oh, absolutely. It's and that's we've said a million times what a great thing it is, and what a great thing for the sport. And anytime drivers make a little extra money, that's something special. And I've said it a million times, and it's annoying. It annoys me that Advanced Auto Parts or a Parts Plus or something like that hasn't woken up and realized the amount of money that the Derby guys spend at their businesses. You know what I mean? Napa. I mean, how many of these guys go to a mom and pop Napa store? That's what I mean. So I wish that would join. I would love for Mark to pick up a title sponsor. That would be amazing. But it's a great thing. It's a great thing for the Derby world. So yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Is we going to get our first repeat winner? Is there going to be somebody new, somebody we haven't talked about?
It'd be pretty cool to see 4 different winners in 4 years.
Yeah, that would be definitely be pretty interesting.
It's and especially with all the variabilities with the sliding scales and the bonus points and stuff. I think it's got the potential to be one of the closest races that we've seen ever. The last couple have kind of turned into runaways towards the end of the season, just because it was sort of all settled and the fight was back there for that 2nd through 5th spot. Mm-hmm. But I think this year certainly has potential to be some close races at the top for the final positions as they get through it. And then also I think that this is it's going to be much harder for anybody to repeat this year with the way things are breaking down versus years past.
Definitely. It's going to be an open game, that's for sure.
Mark, I appreciate you bearing with us through the challenge that we had with Zoom initially here. Is there anything that we missed or that you wanted to touch on that we didn't get to this time?
No, man. I said it once earlier, and I'll say it again. You guys have absolutely mesmerized me with your insight and your perspective, and my ears are always open and my eyes are always watching. I will never claim to have anything figured out, we just kind of live and learn and continue to grow and continue to fill gaps. And because I know they're watching and I know how much it means to them, Mr. Cam Penwell, when I tell people, listen, let me tell you, when I tell people that aren't Derby people and they ask, because they're interested or they're being polite, it doesn't matter, but they ask how the series went, and I kind of give them some recap, and I start talking about an 11-year-old kid that placed in our top 10 as our highest youth, and he won in police cars, he won in W bodies, and he won in a station wagon of his grandpa's. Like, you cannot make it up. It is lightning. It is electric. And even talking to Derby people, and they're like, "What, man? I thought he was 14." Like that makes a difference that he was 14. but no, he's 11. He's 11. Oh, I just, wow. And I don't care what anybody says about the youth. And I hear buzz about how, well, it's not fair that I can't go down and stop a youth. Like, well, if that's the route you want to take, then pay some kid to jump on him. But I'll never punish these kids. The fact that these kids are getting into something like this, and the fact that they're elevating and coming up out of youth and running with the big boys and having success,
game changers.
It's a bright future.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, the fact that the younger generation, and we've seen the numbers climb. It's great for the sport. Chris and I have talked before that, in today's youth, not as many kids grow up working on cars with dad or grandpa or Uncle Jimmy or whatever. So, to get kids a little more involved, it's for this sport, it's important. I mean, sooner or later, the drivers are all going to be aged out. Everybody's going to be. So, I mean, to see the number of youth and, the car counts that guys are getting for youth shows, it's great. And I mean, what Mark and the Smiths do, it's awesome to see. So I think things are definitely looking good, and I'm definitely very, very interested to see what the future is going to bring.
We even gave Mark an opportunity to jump in. He's on his best behavior tonight.
Mark's probably ready to go and relax.
He's probably freezing out
there
in
the
the
truck.
truck.
Work and got in the truck.
Well, Mark, man, I appreciate it again you coming on and making some time for us. And I know we've got some conversations that we're going to be following up on, which I'm excited to do. We get those opportunities here when we get past the holidays and stuff. So that's going to be exciting. And definitely, like we said before, keep us fed with that information. We'll be talking with you and talking about the point series all year long, just like we have in the past. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, Chris, Brian. Thank you guys. Thanks for a great season of chatting when we could, and Merry Christmas, man.
Merry Christmas to you as well.
Merry Christmas, Mark. Man, we'll catch up with you soon.
All right, see you guys.
Have a good one.
There goes Mark Elliott. And just like that, we're at 7:15.
I was going to say, holy cow. Yeah, kind of flew through that
we
one.
Did.
Huh?
We
did.
A
lot of good info got out there. Touched on a lot of good things.
And we got to tell Nate that we need permission to be back on this stage the rest of the time.
I like the stage. This is pretty nice. See if he can work something out with the boss.
He's over there shaking his head. I don't know. He said, "You guys have your corner. You need to get back in it."
Keep the animals in the corner.
Well, that's going to do it for this one. I appreciate everybody tuning in and hanging out with us here on a Wednesday. We were kind of juggling a lot of plates on sticks with basketball and with concerts and stuff like that. And now I got to confirm that we've got a basketball game. It just came out while I was here. I got the alert that the schedule for the next 2 weeks has come out, and I'm going to find out if we actually have 3 basketball games the week that we go back to school, or if one of those games isn't going to happen. So next week, because of the storm that's coming through this weekend, I think we're going up to Medina on Monday instead of Sunday. So we're going to look at probably Tuesday next week and likely Tuesday after the first of the year. And then we're going to try and settle back into that Monday rotation. It's been a very bizarre fall since we got there. And it's just been very, very weird between.
It's funny because your kids have gotten to the age where they're playing sports and they're travel sports and so on and so forth. So you're kind of getting into, what I went through with the kids. And so It's just part of growing up, man.
Yeah,
we
it's
were working around it. And just one thing quick before we get off. Kenny and Lindsay Ronsno had their first baby. They had a little baby girl. And she weighed in at 6.8 ounces.
Of course.
How's that for everything?
Well, how many fingers was Kenny leaning over? Just got a couple fingers on that scale to get that extra ounce, right?
And there was a picture of Kenny and the baby watching derby videos in the hospital.
She's a fan already.
She is. So, congratulations to them. Baby and mom are doing well. So, I think that's it. And we're heading into the holidays, bud.
And happy birthday to Jeremy Gully.
Happy birthday to Jeremy Gully. I was actually him and Jody and a couple of the friends were up. They were hunting at Wasco Lake, so we had dinner and hung out and shot the breeze, and that was fun. Somebody
else had a birthday. Oh, Scott Webster down in Tennessee as well. Happy birthday to him. But that's going to do it. Unless we have anything else pressing.
No. We're good.
Everybody's good at home?
Everybody's good.
Keith's doing good?
Good, yes. But
excellent.
Actually blessed. I mean, if I'm being honest, he's blessed. But.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, 422 is in the books. We're looking forward to getting back here for 423 again next week. We'll be looking at probably Tuesday next week. We look forward to seeing you then. That's going to do it for this one. We'll see everybody next time. Thanks for joining us, inviting us into your home here on the Crash Course, episode 422 on Finger Lakes 1.
Crash Course Live is presented by
Smash It Demolition Derby, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Stirring Dirt Racing, hosts of Maymania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah. Online at stirringdirtracing.com.
Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel, and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York.